So welcome everyone, and I want to start with a general question. You see the slide. When you hear the term a God-fearing person, what does that mean to you? And in Hebrew, the term is yirat Elohim, or fear of God.
Respectful, it means, in English.
Respectful to who? To God or to other human beings?
All of the above.
All of the above. Aha. Any other ideas? So let's go through people that we remember or that we think that the Torah says about them that they are Yareh Elohim. Can you think of anybody that is described as Yareh Elohim? Or not Yareh Elohim, not God-fearing?
The two midwives, positive.
So Charlie says the midwives, the Torah says, they feared God. That's why they disobeyed Pharaoh's order. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other? We'll see. We'll see that verse inside. Okay. So the first time in the Torah, it's let's play a game. I'll show you a picture.
Oh, okay.
And you tell me where the scene is taken from. Hopefully that will trigger your memory, and we'll see that the Torah says either they were God-fearing or they were not God-fearing. So here's the first picture. Where is that? Who is that? What do we see there? It's a Genesis.
Yeah, I'm not good at pictures, but Abraham. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Abraham and
Avimelech.
Avimelech.
Pharaoh.
Wait.
Pharaoh, he's pimping, excuse me, he's loaning Sarah.
So it could be actually the artist here is depicting the second time that Sarah was seized. And that was with Avimelech. So you're right. Not only that the first time happened with Pharaoh in Egypt, but then later on, something very similar happens. He says to Sarah, "Tell everybody you're my sister," and then Avimelech takes her, and God appears in the dream to him, says, "No, she's his wife. Don't touch her, or you're gonna die." And then Avimelech is scared. He doesn't. He listens to God, and he gathers back all the people, and he calls Abraham. He says, "Why did you lie to me?" And here's where the fear of God comes in. And Abraham answers back to Avimelech, "Ki amarti, rak en yirat Elohim b'makom hazeh, v'haraguni al dvar ishti." I thought, said Abraham, surely there is no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Notice how he's diplomatic. He doesn't say, you don't accuse the king of not being God-fearing. You just say, there is no God-fearing in this place, in this kingdom. Not you. You're okay. You're very, very diplomatic way. I mean, Abimelech is the one who snatched her, who seized her, but he's playing it safe.
I'll tell you, if that's what Abraham looked like, Sarah may have gone willingly.
Yeah.
Okay. This is actually the artist was trying to show him returning to her and returning Sarah to Abraham. I forgot the name of the artist, but it's interesting that Abraham is expecting them to have yirat Elohim, to have fear of God. And if you have fear of God, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't kill me and take my wife. Okay. So that's the first time. So it's the negative of the non-existence of fear of God. What happens in a place where there's no fear of God? The second picture now, another scene. Okay, that was Abimelech. Okay, what do we see in this picture?
Like the brothers.
That's where Moses is basically gonna sees how they're being mistreated. His people are being mistreated.
Wait, no, this is not Moses. This is these are brothers. This man and these people are brothers.
Joseph.
Joseph, yes. So
Ah,
this is Joseph accusing them of being spies and snatching away Shimon. I think there in the background, there in the door, putting it to work. And so first he accused them of being spies. They denied it. Then Joseph says something very interesting. Let's read the verse. He says, ויאמר עליהם יוסף ביום השלישי, זאת עשו וחיו את האלוהים אני ירא. And I volunteered to read the English.
okay. On the third day, Joseph said to them, "Do this, and you shall live, for I fear God. If you are being honest, let one of your brothers be held in your place of detention, while the rest of you go and take home rations for your starving households."
So even though you're spies, I don't trust you, I don't believe you, I won't throw you in jail, I won't imprison you, I'll make this deal with you. I'll hold only one person, that's, I guess, that's the guy there, Shimon, and I'll give you food. You can go back and take home rations. And I'm doing this because I'm a God-fearing person.
Not
That's
really.
Elohim.
He's doing it because he set up the whole thing.
Well,
Right. But he's telling them that I won't be cruel to you, even though I have a right under the law, because I fear God, so I will let you, I'll give you food, basically. Basically, I'll give food to people I suspect are my enemies or are helping my enemies. So interesting, right? Fear of God here is doing something not just beyond the law, but even aiding somebody I suspect as my enemy. They don't know that he's Joseph, of course. So he's playing it all the way. So he's playing it as a ruler who suspects people came to his country to help his enemies, but yet he fears God. So I'm going to give you food. So that's episode number 2. Now we go to this. What do we see here? Episode number 3.
Those are midwives?
Yeah, this is what Charlie, right? Charlie mentioned it. The midwives. So we had a whole lesson. I think last year we did it about who were these midwives, and sure enough, the Torah describes their motive for saving the Hebrew babies as the midwives fearing God did not do as the king of Egypt had told them. They let the boys live. Now we're going to go with the option that there's 2 options. Remember, we talked about it. What are the 2 options when we talk about the midwives?
That they're either Israelis or Egyptians.
Right. So what is a bigger chidush? What is it more courageous?
Oh, and that,
Egyptians.
yeah.
Yeah. If they're Egyptian, it's more courageous. And there are several commentaries that talk about them being Egyptian. Let's see their reasoning.
But if they're Egyptians, how would they know God?
Oh, so we have to understand, what does it mean exactly? What does it mean that they feared God? God never talked to them. How would they even know God's laws? But let's read Abarbanel, for example. He says, they were not Hebrews, the midwives. Since how could Pharaoh's mind be confident that Hebrew women would murder their own people's babies? He has a winning argument here. Pharaoh would never expect a Hebrew midwife to murder her own people's babies. Rather, they are midwives of the Hebrews. They assist the Hebrew women in the birthing process, just as the next verse says, when you deliver the Hebrew women. Then we have Shadal Shmuel David Luzzatto, Italian commentator from the 19th century. Abarbanel's reading seems correct, for how could it be that Pharaoh could command Israelite women to annihilate their own people by killing all the male offspring and believe that no one will find out about the matter? And then finally, or earlier, I guess, Josephus in his book Antiquities also says they were Egyptian. And they disregarded the decree and dared secretly to save the child that had been born to them. So why did they do it? ותראינה המילדות את האלוהים. Where was it? Here. Do you see the verse? ותראינה המילדות?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
right? יראת Elohim. So the words are separated but the phrase is there. But tirena, it's not from the root ra'ah. It's from the root yir'ah, yud reish aleph. That's the root, yir'ah, fear. But Aaron asked an excellent question, which we're going to have to discuss. God never talked to them. God never talked to anybody at this point, not even to Moses. So what does it mean? They feared God. They feared Elohim. Okay. So that's episode number 3. And now we're going to move on to episode number 4. It's somebody who did not fear God. Who else? Who else in the Torah did not fear God? Specifically, it says, Lo Yareh Elohim.
Haman?
No.
No.
Oh,
It's a-
later, Amalek, late.
Excellent. So this is the picture of the battle with Amalek. So in the battle itself, they are not described. It's just a regular description of a plain vanilla battle of people coming to war with the Hebrews. And there's a little drama there with Moses holding his hands up and God telling him that you have to hold your hands up and that will encourage them, or maybe it's a miracle. It depends how you read it. But then later in the book of Deuteronomy, Devarim, when the famous mitzvah of Zachor, remember what Amalek did to you. So the Torah singles them out. They had wars also with the Amorites, with the Og Melech HaBashan. So why single this nation out? So the
Because of
Torah says,
the way they did it, they snuck up on them and struck them from behind.
excellent. So they exactly. The verse is, how undeterred by fear of God, he, Amalek, or they, surprised you on the march when you were famished and weary, and they let's see the verse inside. You'll see it, exactly what you said. Do you see it? How he encountered you on the way and attacked your tail, all the beaten downs one at your rear, the stragglers, while you were weary and faint, and thus he did not stand in awe of God. So he uses a little bit different phrase, not fear of God. This is Professor Fox in his Shocking Bible. But look, the verse in the Hebrew is Ve'ata ayef ve'agia. Who's Ata?
That's the Hebrews, right?
That's the Hebrews.
Yeah.
So now the next 3 words, Velo Yareh Elohim, and not fear God, and you weren't fearing God. You would think if it's a normal verse, it's also the Hebrews, right? But
Right.
all the translations, this one, also the RJPS, they don't see it that way. They say, no, now we're going back to talk about Amalek. It began with Asher kalcha baderech, he encountered you on the way, Vayizanev becha, kol hanechshalim. That's what Natalie mentioned. He attacked the rear, the straggler, and you, the Israelites, you were weary and faint. And now that it's not you were lo yareh Elohim, now it's going back to talk. So we have to switch the subject in the middle of the sentence. And actually, there's a commentator that says, no, we don't have to switch it. This is actually talking about the Israelites, that they were not yareh Elohim. So this is brought by the, who is this? Chizkuni. He says, if you look here on the right, Velo yareh Elohim. He displayed no fear of God. These words are addressed by Moses to the Jewish people. He tells them that if they at the time had observed the commandments, that they already knew about, Amalek could not have done them any harm. Could not have even, okay, but he's an outlier. Most of the commentators, most of the translations, they understand it as Amalek was not fearing God. Okay, so our fourth episode is Amalek not fearing God. So, my great aunt Nechama Leibowitz, she summarized these four instances and said, let's try to find a common denominator. Okay, so it's a picture of Nechama, and in her book, she challenges us to find. So I want to summarize them for you. You'll see the episodes, and I want you to think about it. And as you read this, but to yourselves, we had episode 1, Abraham and Avimelech. We had episode 2, Joseph saying to his brother that Et Elohim ani yareh. Then we had episode 3, the 2 midwives, and then episode 4, Amalek is lo yareh Elohim. What is a thread that can be woven through all of these if you wanted to summarize now this phrase of Yareh Elohim?
That Yireh Elohim, it's equivalent to moral behavior.
I
Right?
like that. And not just moral behavior. If you look closely at each of the instances, it's moral behavior towards who?
Toward the Jews.
No. Yeah, but no, from the person who acted, from the person who had Yirat Elohim or did not have, it measures how he acted toward his own people or other people.
Other people.
Other people. It's how you act towards the other nation, the minority. Now let's go through them again. So Avimelech, he's not treating one of the Philistines. The question of whether there's fear of God in his kingdom is, how do you treat a stranger who comes to your kingdom with a woman, with his wife? You think that because he's a stranger, he's a not undocumented person, then you have the right to snatch his wife and kill them. So it's how you're acting to the stranger. Then episode 2, and again, Joseph, they don't know, and he doesn't tell them that he knows they're his brothers. But from their perspective, that not only they are another nation, they are spying, they are helping the enemies. Yet he says, look, I'm a God-fearing person. Even my enemies have to be treated in a basic moral way. And if now there's famine in the land, so I'm going to give you food to eat, right? Because otherwise they would start to suspect, wait a minute, what, does he fear God? Maybe he's not Egyptian. But he's saying, no, I'm Egyptian, but even a God-fearing Egyptian treats the people from the other nations with fairness. And so since I'm giving you the option to prove your innocence, go back, bring me Benjamin. In the meantime, I'm giving you food. Episode 3. So clearly that's the babies of the Hebrews. In other words, these Egyptian women courageously saved babies, just like some did in the Holocaust, who saved Jews from being killed by the Nazis. And we call them the righteous of the nations. And we'll see a video soon. And 4, again, Amalek attacked the stragglers from the other nation. So it's always how you treat. That's the measuring, what it measures. Not how you treat your own people, but how you treat the other people. So these are the 4 instances that she writes about in her book. But there are actually a few more in the Torah that talk about fear of God. And one of them is from our Parsha. She doesn't mention it, but I want to see if we can tie it in to her theory. So before the plague of hail, Moses gives Pharaoh a warning. It's going to be the biggest, baddest hail that you ever seen in Egypt. And I'm going to read from here. Therefore, order your livestock and everything you have in the open brought under shelter. Every human and beast that is found outside, not having been brought indoors, shall perish when the hail comes down upon them. Okay, then what happens next? Do you see the slide about something new?
Yes.
Yeah. So the Torah says, very interesting. Those among Pharaoh's courtiers who feared Adonai's word brought their slaves and livestock indoors to safety. In Hebrew, it looks like this. Hayare et devar Adonai. So again, Yare Adonai. Okay, this time it's not Elohim, this time it's the Yud Hey Vav Hey, name of God. So there were two groups of people. Let's see a summary. Those who Yare Devar Adonai, those who feared the Lord's word, they brought their slaves and livestock indoors to safety. There was the other group, those who did not heed the warning, they paid no regard, they left their slaves and livestock in the open. So can we tie in these courtiers, Pharaoh's courtiers, about whom it said, Yareh Devar Adonai, to Nehemiah's theory? So I think if we focus on that they didn't only save their own lives, they brought their slaves too to safety.
Okay.
Slaves were considered property, but they cared about them. So it's kind of similar to what her theory, that is how you treat the marginalized people. That's the measurement of whether you are a God-fearing person. Because slaves were the most marginalized people in Egyptian society. And these courtiers, they could have just saved themselves, right? They could have just found safety indoors, and who cares? I'll get new slaves. But the Torah emphasizes that, or in the Hebrew, if you want to see it, Heniset Avadav Beit Mikneh Ol Abatim. So here, the second, the Avdei Paro, the first one, that's the courtiers. The second one, Avadav, this word here, that's the slaves of Egypt who had no rights and were treated like property. Yet, if you fear God, you care about their lives too.
But what about the livestock? You know, if it were just the slaves, I'd agree totally. But the fact that they're concerned about their livestock, that's something else.
You're right. You're right. So I'm not sure that it's really something about they care about morals. Like you say, maybe they only care about their property. Even slaves, yeah, they don't care that they get killed, but their property, they're worth money. They'll have to spend more money on getting new slaves. So not 100%. And then there is one more time where I found Yareh Elohim. Where did I find it? In this picture. What do we see in this picture? It's hard. This is in the desert. And this is Moses in the middle here. And who came to visit him?
Yitro?
Jethro.
Ah, excellent. And he sees all of them, all the people lining up with all their quarrels and all their problems that they need to adjudicate. And then he famously says to him, no, you can't do this all alone. You need to appoint. And when he describes the judges, look at this. He says, Elohim. You shall also seek among the people capable individuals who fear God. Ah, so there's our phrase again. So I think we can tie this in. Judges who also judge the strangers among you fairly. If they're just capable and truthful and spurn ill-gotten gains, that's not enough. It's the question, the real test is how they will judge the migrants, the refugees, the minorities, the marginalized people. Will they give them fair justice? This is the equal protection clause, the biblical equal protection clause. So I think we can take Nehemiah's theory and say, yeah, we need kind of judges that apply the law fairly and equally to everybody, regardless if they're citizens or not. Okay, so I think we saw that there were there was this very interesting theory that she proposed, and that really fear of God is how the morality of your behavior toward the undocumented person or the stranger or the marginalized people in society. That's the real test. And if you do that, then you're a God-fearing person. So like we already mentioned in the Holocaust, there were God-fearing people, and they weren't famous, they weren't high-ranking people. They, some of them some of these stories are really amazing. People who, and whether they did it because they were actually, they were religious or not, it doesn't matter. What matters is the result, that they put themselves at great risk and save Jews. And here's the story, a quick story. So 5 minutes, if I can take up from your time. 6 minutes. Okay. This is about Zainaba Hardaga. No, wait.
On the eve of World War II, the population of Sarajevo in Yugoslavia numbered some 115,000 residents, including Muslim Bosnians, Catholic Croats, Orthodox Serbs, and approximately 12,000 Jews. On April 6, 1941, the Axis powers invaded Yugoslavia, and the German Air Force began a bombing raid on Sarajevo. 9 days later, the Germans entered the city, and Sarajevo was annexed to the independent state of Croatia, a puppet state established by Germany and Italy and governed by the fascist Ustaše movement. The Jewish population was subjected to anti-Jewish statutes, arrests, and later, mass expulsions. Most of Sarajevo's Jews were deported to the Jasenovac concentration camp between September and November 1941. Immediately following the outbreak of the war, the Gestapo established its headquarters near the home of Muslim furniture dealer Mustafa Hardaga and his wife Zaineba, who lived with their 2 young children, Salko and Zarfa, and Mustafa's brother Izzet, his wife Bahria, and their children. Yosef Kabilio, the owner of a local lead pipe factory, was Hardaga's good friend and business partner. The Kabilio house was badly damaged in the bombings, leaving the family homeless. Despite the dangers involved, the Hardaga family welcomed Yosef, his wife Rivka, and their children, Binyamin and Buena, into their home. The 2 families became one, to the point that the Hardaga women, who were devout Muslims, stopped covering their faces in the company of the Kabilios. After a time, Gestapo agents appeared at the doorstep of the Hardaga house, demanding to check their papers. The Kabilios hid in a large closet and were thus spared. The Hardaga family continued to hide the Kabilios until Rivka and the children managed to escape and go into hiding. First in Trebinje, then later in Mostar, which was under Italian control and therefore safer for Jews. Yosef remained in Sarajevo. Eventually, he was arrested, jailed, and sentenced to be transferred to Jasenovac, along with other prisoners. However, due to the harsh winter conditions, it was decided that the men would remain in Sarajevo in order to work clearing snow off the streets. One day, while thus occupied, Yosef was recognized by Zaineba Hardaga, who then began providing food for him and the other prisoners, in spite of the great risks this entailed. Sometime later, Yosef managed to escape and returned to the Hardaga house. The family hid him and took care of him for 2 months. But in light of the danger and the house's proximity to the Gestapo headquarters, Yosef eventually decided to escape to Mostar, where he was reunited with his family. The Kabilio family was discovered and sent to the Italian concentration camp on the island of Rab. Following the truce between Italy and the Allies in September 1943, the area became occupied by German military forces. The Kabilio family was once again forced to flee, this time to the liberated zones in Kordun, in central Croatia, where they joined the partisan forces and thus lived to see the end of the war. Only approximately 2,000 of Sarajevo's Jews managed to survive, some of them thanks to the help of the righteous among the nations. After the liberation of Yugoslavia, the Kabilio family returned to Sarajevo and to the Hardaga family home. It was then revealed to them that Zaineba's father, Ahmed Sadiq, was killed in Jasenovac for the charge of harboring Jews. Later on, the Kabilio family immigrated to Israel and established itself in Jerusalem. At Yosef's initiative, in 1984, Yad Vashem recognized the Hardaga family and Ahmed Sadiq as righteous among the nations. The following year, Zainaba came to Israel to receive the title and plant a tree on the Avenue of the Righteous at Yad Vashem. The story does not end here. 50 years after their rescue, the Kabilio family got the opportunity to return the favor to their saviors. In 1992, the Bosnian War broke out and Sarajevo was under siege. Zainaba Hardaga, who still resided in the city with her family members, received medical aid and food packages from the Jewish community in Sarajevo and from the American Joint. However, the conditions she and her family were forced to endure remained harsh. They suffered from hunger and watched their fellow citizens get killed on the streets every single day. The Kabilio family searched for a way to help the people responsible for their survival. At the same time, Dr. Mordecai Paldiel, director of the Department of the Righteous Among the Nations at Yad Vashem at the time, was also trying to assist the Hardagas. Eventually, following great efforts, some of which even reached then Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, they received permission to extract the Hardaga family from Sarajevo and bring them to Israel. They were transferred out of Sarajevo as part of the last Jewish refugees rescue convoy organized by the American Joint and the Jewish community in Sarajevo. On February 10, 1994, a plane carrying the Hardaga family, along with other Sarajevo refugees, landed in Israel. They were greeted by a crowd. Among them was Buena, the daughter of Yosef and Rivka Kabilio. Zainaba was given lodgings at the absorption center in Mevaseret Zion. Roughly half a year later, she passed away and was buried at the Bet Zayit cemetery. Her daughter Aida converted to Judaism and took the name Sarah. She lives in Jerusalem and worked at Yad Vashem for many years.
What an interesting story.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Wow.
Wow.
a real righteous among them.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all for.
Mm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shimon.
Great.